What's going on, guys? Wade here, and I am in Woodland Cemetery in Des Moines, Iowa today, and I just got done writing a book about this cemetery. Actually, we wrote a book about this cemetery. This was a big undertaking by a lot of different people. Not even everyone is here right now, but we've got Mike, you know Mike, you love Mike, we've got Mary, and we have Christine, and we spent the last year plus writing this book, and it's been out and it's published, but there's lots of stories in this cemetery about people of all different walks of life. And we're gonna take you through and highlight some of these, the folks that are in the book. Mary's got the book right here. We've got all sorts of different stories that are out there. So we're gonna take a walk through the cemetery, let you meet some of these folks, and learn about the people that are interred here in Woodland. So Christine, you said you've got one of your ancestors that's buried here?
Yes.
And she's the founder of a DAR chapter?
DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution.
Okay, and she's here?
Yeah, she's right here. In the early days of the DAR, kind of challenging. Anyway, there are 14 women in Des Moines who got together and started the first chapter in the state of Iowa. 10 of them are buried here. My great-great-grandmother is one of them. The DAR numbers their members sequentially, and so her number is 4,432.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Did you grow up like hearing a lot of stories about her?
Not so many. Well, her husband was not very into my grandmother joining the DAR for whatever reason, I'm not sure. But I was the only grandchild that had children. So when anybody died, I got everything.
You've got you've got rooms, all the mementos.
Oh yeah. I live in a family history museum. Anyway, I have a lot of her dishes, her silverware, furniture, tablecloths, linen napkins. She was very involved in the DAR in the social aspect of it. And so she entertained these ladies all the time.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Her husband, who is right here, he had a wholesale grocery business in one of the buildings that's in the Court Avenue area. You can still see the Warfield name on the building.
That's amazing. But this is what this all ties back to, right? This is all local history. And
Definitely.
You've got Daughters of American Revolution all across the United States. She was one that helped bring that here.
Definitely.
And they were some of the founders of the city, the local grocer.
Yep.
That's what's so cool about a cemetery like this, is there's people from everywhere, all walks of life. We've got fancy mausoleums, we've got more basic headstones and whatnot, but everybody matters. And there's all sorts of connections.
Definitely.
So Mike, you said there's a James Weaver that's up here?
Yeah, Wade. So everywhere you turn, there's somebody here that's of interest. And one of the problems we had with some individuals like James Weaver was he was too interesting. So he's one of only 2 people in the state of Iowa that ever received electoral college votes. He ran for president. Now, do you think that was enough to make him interesting? Not really. He was also a direct descendant of Betsy Ross, the maker of the first American flag.
How are they connected?
He was a direct descendant. I don't remember if it was a 3rd or 4th great grandmother.
Okay.
But the thing that really caught our attention is he is the grandfather of Hank Ketchum, who was the creator of Dennis the Menace. Everybody's got a story. Some people have 3 or 4.
That's so cool. So we've got a presidential candidate.
Yep.
Connections to Betsy Ross.
He was
connections to Dennis the Menace.
And he was in the Civil War.
It goes to show you that people can have a very complex life, or maybe not as much.
Yep. And everybody's got a story.
That's my story, right? Everybody's got one. Everybody's got one. Cool. So one of the cool features that we have here at this cemetery is this receiving vault. Christine is going to open this up for us, but for those of you that don't know what a receiving vault is, as Christine's opening this up, a receiving vault is just where it's cold, right? I already have a jacket on, but in the wintertime, you couldn't always bury a body, or it would be really challenging to do so. And so a body would come in here to the receiving vault and it would be held in place. And there's, essentially racking that would be along the walls here. They'd fill it with ice, and it's topped with earth overhead. And that just allows the bodies to stay, safely here before they can actually put them in the ground because we have long, cold winters. So this is really cool. There's an entrance area I'm going to show you. It's kind of dark, but bear with me. So Christine, if you remind me, but I think right over here, this is where, like, you could have had a casket,
Yes.
and you would have had the body sitting here. So the area that we're in right here, you've got all this, probably not great paint, probably lead paint.
It's not lead.
Not lead? Okay, great. That's perfect. So the family could still be around their loved one, and they would be here, and they would actually come in here. There'd be chairs right behind us here. Let me show you that because it's pretty cool. So you've got our camera facing there, but you've got this other niche back here, and in this space, then you have an ability to mourn your loved one. So they would be here, got chairs, and then back here is where actually you'd have other bodies that would be waiting to be interred in the cemetery. So let's see if I can show any of this whatsoever. So you guys, I realize that it might look bright on camera, or at least reasonable, but it's pitch black in here. there's no lights in the ceiling. There's an electrical panel off the back here, but this is the area in here. It's underground. There's an earthen, ceiling to this that's covering this, all concrete. And this is essentially, there would have been racks along the wall and throughout here where you would have bodies. And so they would have been here just waiting for it. And one of the things about this book is that, Christine, come on over here. So one of the things about this book is it's ultimately a fundraiser. So we're not making money off of doing this, but there's certainly money involved. And so we had to go out and fundraise to look for money to help write the book. And then we've enlisted a publisher for it. But one of the things that the proceeds is going for this book is to restore things like this in the cemetery itself. So the receiving vault is one of those items. And so, let's hope the books sell well, right? And these types of things becomes a place. Is this on a national landmark or?
Not yet.
Okay.
And it's very cumbersome to go through the city process to restore this building. We did a 175th anniversary event in the cemetery, and a lady came up to me and said that many years ago, she and her chamber orchestra group had played in here. And she was hoping that it would get restored because they would like to play in here again. She said the acoustics are just wonderful.
Yeah, do you hear the echo in here? It's super cool. So, it's a part of history, and that's part of it. So I share that with you because this is just a really unique place. You saw it from the earlier shot on the outside of it. It's gorgeous. And it's a part of the cemetery. And so that's one of the things that the book proceeds go towards is that. So lots of people have passed through here, and it serves a very functional purpose, but that's what this receiving vault is. Really cool bit of history because there's not a lot of them around the country, especially of this size. They're very unique, and especially has to be in a more northern climate because their purpose was winter, right? And so you only have snow in certain places. So that's really cool. So we're gonna go out of here and we're gonna go off and visit some other graves. So keep going with us. Mary, you said there was one over here that you wanted to show me?
Yes, Will Morrison.
So you said this is Morrison. What's the unique story about this individual here?
Yeah, he went by the middle name Will. His name was Scobie Morrison, and he was a young man in the United States Navy, stationed in San Francisco. It would have been the late 1890s. And he was asked to go with the Navy as a volunteer on a ship up to the North Pole to free another ship from ice up there. And he did go. He met the requirements. The requirements were the young man had to be happy and healthy and good musicians, good singers, play an instrument, not be encumbered by wife and children.
So not encumbered. That's
Not
a lot of
encumbered,
requirements.
Right. So he had a family, but not a wife and a child. So that was okay. And off he went on this ship for a 2-year voyage up to the North Pole. And on the main floor of the ship, or the deck, were 50 Alaskan dogs that were coming along to pull sleds. And they barked and growled and howled the whole way. They were fent. And so the men had to go below to get some peace and quiet. And it wasn't very nice below either. But off they went for 2 years to free a ship called the Jeannette at the North Pole. And they did make it there, but were not able to free the ship. And in fact, they got stuck themselves. So it was a very long story, but anyway, they finally got free. Most of them made it home okay. Will Morrison would have got a hero's welcome here in Des Moines. He got married right after that to his wife Eva, and not much later went on a hunting trip with some friends. And they were up in a train station in Valeria, Iowa. Will had his loaded gun behind him leaning on the wall. He leaned back into it while he was talking and shot himself. And you can see on his stone here, I'm guessing maybe his wife got some money from the government. This would have been a very, very, very expensive marker or stone back in the day, but there's an anchor on it, and that's why, for his Navy service.
First Navy service, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a beautiful stone.
So Mary, it's really interesting to see because you've got an individual that went to the North Pole and they had Huskies, and certainly it's still used commonly today. You know, you've got different modes of transportation, but it's so fascinating just from a societal perspective how far we've come. You know, he died of, you know, a self-inflicted, you know, gunshot wound and an accident, but the idea of going up on a ship like that to the North Pole, and you think about the technology we have, it's amazing to see how far we've just come in so many ways, in such a positive way.
Absolutely. It's hard to imagine what those men would have gone through getting there and getting back home.
So challenging to come back home. And all,
Yep.
you know, you guys at home, I love the monuments. You know me from my restoration work as well as the family history, but this is absolutely stunning stone. And as Mary said, this would be really expensive. this would be really expensive. So this is a gorgeous granite monument, topped, you know, and as Mary's alluding to, the anchor up there for his Navy service, and you know, being watched over. So really gorgeous. Mike, there's a veteran stone up here, and I think, you know, one of the things that I first connected on was that, you know, individuals that served in our armed forces that are veterans, they receive this stone for free. This is from the Veterans Administration, and this is something that you've spent a lot of time working on, is making sure that individuals that have served that maybe are in an unmarked grave have this. And I don't know if this is one you worked on. I don't think it is, but you know, I've certainly experienced that along with you. What is it about, you know, making sure that these folks have a marker on their grave that just motivates you, because you've spent so much time doing that?
I just think that if someone served, whether they volunteered or were drafted, and they served honorably, it's such a sacrifice, not only from them and their family, that government has said, we want to recognize you and not be forgotten. And so it's a small thing, but it's also a very large thing, I think, that people can look at with pride.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, Mike and I have worked on lots of different things together, you know, this book, and we had a tornado that came through one of the cemeteries not too far from here, and we spent a bunch of time putting some headstones back together for veterans that had broken from that. And so this particular individual you said was really special, has a unique story. What's so interesting about her?
Well, so one of the things that I'm most proud of my co-authors in this book is that we've not only, you know, captured the stories of the rich and famous, but they've captured the stories of some of the people that are really underrepresented just a few generations ago. And I think those include, among others, people of color, women. History didn't always cover them as much as they should. So when I came across this grave of Margaret May Robinson, I looked at it, and what first caught my attention was not only did she serve in the United States Navy, she was born in 1922. So I mean, this was a time when women didn't typically, or a very small percent of them, served in the military. She not only served in the Navy during World War II, but she signed up again later, joined the Army, and served in the Korean War. And then after she retired, she ended up volunteering at the Veterans Hospital in Des Moines. And it's a fascinating story, and I won't go into all of it, but one of the other things that this grave represents is, you can see there's a QR code there. And this was a project that one of our volunteers did, and I think this is one of the best QR code video stories in the cemetery. It was put together by a woman that became friends of her when she was in her 80s, and she just does a beautiful job of storytelling, and this simple stone represents so many different categories.
As Mike said, this is really an interesting one. And on your screen, if you want to pause the video and scan that, you can watch that video. Just you know, pause the video, take your phone and scan that. But for those of you that are, you know, volunteering in your own cemeteries, this is a program that you might be interested in. I've actually seen this around the country as I've traveled around, and people have been putting QR codes like this out in cemeteries to be able to tell their stories. So certainly for me, being able to put these videos out for you all, I have a platform to be able to do that. But every cemetery that I go to, there's always people driving through the cemetery. And so to be able to do that for people where you can, have people driving through and are captive, they've got a QR code out there for you, just like this. It captures their attention and they're going to stop and scan it because it's interesting, right? So if you're looking for something to do as a volunteer in your own cemetery, maybe it's something like making sure that the veterans have a headstone, have their memorial in place and be recognized for their service, which is amazing. If you want to do that, I've got another video where I talk with Mike about all that, or maybe you want to do a QR code, something like that. That's something that you can do in your own cemetery. So there's lots of opportunities for you to go out there and do this type of work in your own cemetery. So this was kind of book by committee, right? Mary, this was your dream to get this. This is what you motivated. And you brought in a bunch of different people because, I'm a videographer, I'm a creator. I don't do writing. I'm not good at that part of it. And I think it was so fascinating. So for the people that behind the scenes part of this at home, no, I didn't go through and write all these stories. I tell you stories and I do the genealogy research myself, but we had historians that are here locally that were helping write this. Mike, you wrote, Mary, you wrote, others wrote. And we collectively, as a group, came up with who are the people that we want to talk about and why? And for me, as I'm doing resetting work, so right here, why is this piece sitting right here? Because this is a large top. There's a finial that would go on top of this. There's something missing. That's what I know. I'm good at that part. I can figure out what's going on here. The writing, not as much, but everyone has a story. And it's part of the process was figuring out who do we include in the book? Because there's so many stories. So we spent a lot of time figuring out who do we want to put in the book and why. We don't want just the first burial and the last burial and they all have stories, but we want to find the right stories and unique, because that's what I think when I look at doing this work is. So Mary, you brought people together. What was your thought about the people that you brought together to bring this book together?
I actually approached the cemetery manager, Ganesh Ganpat, and with the idea of a book. It was COVID, and I was walking my dog here in this beautiful cemetery every day, and I wanted some information to tell me about who to visit and who these people were under these beautiful stones. And so I approached Ganesh. He actually pulled our team together. We had 9 people, so a map maker, researchers, editors, yourself, and this group of 9, and met every month for, I guess it was a couple years, to put the book together, and everybody pitched in, and it was all a volunteer effort.
I love it. And it was a great group to be a part of because ultimately, like Mary said, map makers. So you all can see around here, there's headstones everywhere. You're how does this bob and weave? Well, that's one of the things that was pulled together. There was a person that made maps for us. So there's a map in the book. And so for people that want to do this themselves, you're at home, you can see behind here, it's a mess. Not really, but there's lots of bobbing and weaving here. So there's map makers, there's people that are fact checking things. And we had a partner in all of this. We had a publishing company that was putting this together.
Exactly, History Press.
History Press, and that's part of Arcadia. And so for those of you that are at home, if you're looking to do something like this, they specialize in cemetery books. That's just one of their areas that they're experts in, and there's lots of books like that out there. So we'd love for you to take a look at this book if you're interested in buying it. You can go online. There's lots of different places for it. What's the name of the book, Mary?
It is called Woodland Cemetery in Des Moines.
Woodland Cemetery in Des Moines. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, local booksellers.
Anywhere great books are sold.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different options out there, and this is the one that we're going to talk about right here, right, Mike?
Yeah, this stone actually has 2 stories of 2 individuals. So you see on the stone, it's Dr. Esther Allen. A couple of things should probably strike you. Number one, this was a lady that was a Civil War nurse, and then after the Civil War, so imagine the time frame, she came back to Des Moines and became one of the first women physicians in our city. Really was well respected for all that she had done and accomplished, but she was also a person that had a real feel for people. So there was a time in the 1870 where a young lady was murdered in Des Moines, and she was not well looked upon due to her circumstances. And so they were going to put her in a pauper's grave in a pine box, and Dr. Allen just did not think that had the dignity that.
So let me pause you right there, Mike.
Yeah.
Why did that people not look highly upon her?
She was a sex worker.
There
she
you go.
was a
So-
young woman that had been widowed, had no means of making money at the time. And
I want to highlight that because ultimately, at the end of the day, everyone's a person, right? Everyone deserves respect. And so, you know, sex work today is looked at differently than it would have been then. There's still stigma around that, but everybody can be buried in a cemetery. Everyone has a right to a proper burial, and that's what we're highlighting here, is there's a person that was ostracized by the community for doing something to survive.
Yep. Dr. Allen saw to it that she had a very nice coffin and actually took charge of her funeral, which they actually had to have on a sidewalk just outside the cemetery. I think it speaks well for what Dr. Allen not only made of her life, but thought of other people as well. So kind of two very cool stories in one. These kind of stories are everywhere in the cemetery.
We're here in the cemetery. There's local history all over, and you have your own local history, and this is ours. This is where, you know, I live a few blocks away from here. You know, this happens to be my local cemetery, and I've done a lot of work in it. You know, Christine, she said she's gonna be buried here. Mike, you've got a spot here. And ultimately, like, this is everybody's place. And to be able to have an individual that's watching out for another person, we need more of that in this world. We need more of that. So we want to lean into that. So I love that individual's highlighted. We want to bring up people like that.
One of the things that your involvement and everyone's involvement in their own cemeteries, I think, leads to is it leads to bigger and better things. So in this cemetery, we've seen roads rebuilt that were in horrible shape. We've seen walls put up that were crumbling down. So you think maybe you just do one small thing, but it really leads to bigger and better things all the time. So I wanted to say thank you to all of you that take care of your cemeteries. It's important to the community, it's important to the families, and in the long run, it's important to everyone.
It's all about taking care of each other.
Yep.
We're neighbors, and you might be neighbors in death. You know, you might be buried next to each other. Awesome.